The airport was crowded that evening. Families reuniting, business travelers rushing, and tourists dragging heavy suitcases across the shining floor. Among the noise and movement, a little girl stood still, clutching a teddy bear, her big brown eyes scanning the sea of strangers. Her tiny shoulders trembled. She looked no older than 6. Katreena noticed her while waiting near the departure lounge. Katreena was not rich, not glamorous, not the kind of person who stood out in such a place. She was a simple woman, dressed in modest clothes, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Life had never been easy for her. She worked 2 part-time jobs and still struggled to make ends meet. Yet, despite her hardships, she carried a warmth in her eyes that made people feel safe. When she saw the little girl standing all alone, Katreena's heart tightened. The child's lips trembled as she whispered, "Daddy? Daddy?" Her voice was swallowed by the noise of boarding announcements. People walked past her, not stopping, not caring. Katreena couldn't ignore it. She gently walked over and knelt down, lowering herself to the child's height. "Hey, sweetheart," Katreena said softly, giving her a reassuring smile. "Are you lost?" The girl's eyes filled with tears as she clutched her teddy tighter. "I can't find my daddy. He was here. He was here just a moment ago." Katreena felt a rush of protectiveness. She brushed a strand of hair from the girl's face and said, "Don't worry. I'll stay with you until we find him. Okay? You're not alone." The child nodded, her little hand slowly reaching for Katreena's. That small gesture of trust melted her heart. Minutes passed. Katreena walked with the girl, carefully searching the crowd. She spoke to her gently, trying to distract her from fear. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," the girl whispered. "Lily, that's a beautiful name," Katreena smiled. "And your teddy, what's his name?" The girl giggled through her tears. "Mr. Fluffy." That little giggle was enough to spark hope. Katreena held her hand tightly, determined to protect her until she was safe again. Just then, from a distance, a tall man in a dark tailored suit rushed forward, panic etched across his face. His tie was slightly undone, his suitcase forgotten behind him as his eyes locked onto the little girl. "Lily!" he called, his voice breaking with both fear and relief. The girl's face lit up. "Daddy!" she squealed, running toward him, but still holding Katreena's hand. The man bent down and scooped Lily into his arms, holding her so tightly as if he'd never let go. But his eyes, sharp, commanding, and deep, shifted to Katreena. For a moment, there was silence between them. Katreena thought he would simply thank her and leave. But instead, his voice was firm, almost accusing. "Step away from her." The words cut the air. Katreena froze, stunned. She hadn't expected that. After all she did, why did his eyes hold suspicion instead of gratitude? Katreena blinked at the man's sharp words. For a moment, she felt her chest tighten with insult. She had only tried to help, yet here he was, looking at her as if she were a threat. "Daddy, no!" Lily cried, tugging at her father's arm. "She helped me. I was scared, and she held my hand. She stayed with me." The man's expression softened a little at his daughter's words, but his gaze remained guarded as he studied Katreena. His tall frame, polished suit, and commanding presence told her one thing. He was no ordinary traveler. Katreena kept her voice calm. "I found her alone near the lounge. She looked lost. I couldn't just walk past." For a brief moment, their eyes met, hers filled with sincerity, his with suspicion. Finally, he exhaled, his shoulders relaxing just slightly. "I appreciate that," he said, his voice quieter now. He turned to Lily, brushing her hair back. "Don't ever wander off again. You scared me." "I didn't mean to, Daddy," Lily whispered. Katreena watched the tender moment between them. It told her more than words ever could. This man loved his daughter deeply. Still, there was something else in his eyes, a weight she couldn't name. "Thank you," he said finally, though his tone was clipped, as if gratitude didn't come easily to him. "I'm just glad she's safe," Katreena replied gently. She expected that to be the end of it, that he would walk away with his daughter, disappearing into the crowd like strangers do. But Lily had other plans. "Daddy, can she come with us?" the little girl asked innocently, still clinging to Katreena's hand. The man stiffened. "Lily, that's not how this works." "But I like her," Lily insisted. "She's kind. She reminds me of Mommy." The words hit him like a storm. His jaw tightened, and he looked away for a moment, pain flickering in his eyes. Katreena noticed the sudden heaviness in his face, but she didn't pry. She smiled at Lily and gently let go of her hand. "Sweetheart, your daddy's here now. You're safe. That's what matters." But as Katreena turned to leave, Lily's little voice followed her. "Please don't go." The please stopped her mid-step, and though she didn't realize it then, that moment, small, tender, unexpected, would be the beginning of something far greater than any of them could imagine. Because Michal, the millionaire father with walls of pride around his heart, had noticed the way this stranger, this ordinary woman, had comforted his daughter. And no matter how much he tried to dismiss it, her presence lingered in his thoughts. For the next few days, Katreena thought she would never see them again. After all, airports are places of goodbyes and quick encounters. But fate had other plans. One afternoon, while walking home from her shift at the bookstore, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Katreena!" She turned, and there was Lily, running toward her with open arms, Mr. Fluffy bouncing in her hands. Behind her stood Michal, his usual sharp suit replaced with a casual jacket. His expression was unreadable. Katreena bent down, hugging the little girl who clung to her as if she had known her forever. "Lily, what are you doing here?" "I told Daddy I wanted to see you," Lily said with a big grin. "So we came." Michal cleared his throat, stepping closer. "She wouldn't stop talking about you. I thought it was only fair to let her see you again." Katreena's lips curved into a smile, though she caught the subtle hesitation in his tone. "I'm glad she's okay." From that day, visits became frequent. Sometimes Michal would bring Lily to the bookstore. Other times, he would invite Katreena to their house for tea. The first time Katreena stepped into their mansion, she was stunned. Tall ceilings, chandeliers, marble floors. It was another world, far from her small rented apartment. But what caught her eye most wasn't the luxury. It was the silence. Despite the richness, the house felt lonely. Only one presence filled it with warmth. An elderly woman, lying in a large bed near the sunlit window. Her face was pale, her frame frail, but her eyes glowed with gentle kindness. "This is my mother," Michal said softly, his tone different, gentler than Katreena had ever heard. Katreena immediately walked over, adjusting the blanket around her, making sure she was comfortable. She didn't hesitate. Her hands moved with natural care. "Assalamu alaikum," she whispered. "I'm Katreena. It's lovely to meet you." The old woman smiled weakly. So polite, so kind. Michal watched quietly from the doorway. He had seen caretakers come and go, paid nurses who did their jobs but never with heart. But this woman, a stranger, a guest, treated his mother with such tenderness, as if she were her own family. That night, Katreena played with Lily, served tea to Michal's mother, and laughed warmly as if she belonged. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel empty. Later, as she prepared to leave, Lily grabbed her hand. "Promise you'll come again?" Katreena smiled, brushing Lily's hair back. "I promise." Michal walked her to the gate. He wanted to say something but held back. Still, his eyes followed her as she disappeared down the street. Something about her unsettled him, not in a dangerous way, but in a way that chipped at the walls he had built around his heart. Days turned into weeks, and Katreena's presence became a routine in Michal's house. She would read stories to Lily, help the old woman with her medicines, and sometimes even cook simple meals that filled the air with homely warmth. Michal noticed everything. Her patience, her kindness, the way she never asked for anything in return, puzzled him. In his world of wealth and business, people always wanted something. Money, favors, or connections. But Katreena seemed different. And yet, a part of him couldn't help but wonder, was she truly this genuine? Or was it just a mask? One evening, an idea struck him. He decided to test her. The next morning, as Katreena walked back from the market with a bag of groceries, she saw an old man standing helplessly at the roadside. His clothes were torn, his hands shook as he leaned on a cane. The traffic roared past, and he struggled to step onto the zebra crossing. Without hesitation, Katreena rushed forward. "Let me help you, Babaji," she said softly, taking his arm. The old man looked at her gratefully, his voice weak. "These cars, they don't stop for people like me." "Don't worry," Katreena reassured him, guiding him carefully across the road. She carried his small bag for him and waited until he was safely on the other side. As she placed the bag in his hands, she smiled. "Are you all right now?" The man's eyes softened, but behind that wrinkled face was someone she could never have guessed. Michal. He had disguised himself with a wig, fake beard, and old clothes. And in that moment, he saw the truth with his own eyes. She didn't help him because he was rich, or because she expected a reward. She helped because it was in her nature. When she finally walked away, humming softly to herself, Michal removed the disguise and leaned against his car parked nearby. His chest tightened with something unfamiliar, a mix of guilt and admiration. For years, he had believed trust was dangerous, that everyone had an angle. But Katreena, she shattered that belief with the simplest act of kindness. Later that night, when she visited his home again, Michal found himself watching her differently. She was serving soup to his mother, gently blowing on the spoon to cool it before feeding her. His mother smiled like a child, and Lily giggled nearby. Michal whispered to himself, almost in disbelief, "She doesn't even know, and yet she gives everything." For the first time, the millionaire father felt something he had long forgotten, hope. A week later, Michal called Katreena into his study. The room was vast. Mahogany shelves lined with books, a grand desk polished to a shine, and city lights glowing through tall glass windows. Katreena stood nervously at the door, not sure why he had asked for her. "You wanted to see me?" she asked softly. Michal leaned back in his chair, his sharp gaze fixed on her. "Yes, I've been observing you, Katreena. The way you care for Lily, for my mother. It's rare." Katreena shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't do it for recognition. I know," he interrupted, his tone steady. "And that's exactly why I want to offer you something." She blinked. "Offer me? A job," Michal said firmly. "At my company. As a manager." Her eyes widened. "A manager? Me? But I'm not qualified for that. I don't have a degree in business. I'm just—" "You're honest," Michal said, cutting her doubt short. "You're hardworking. You know how to deal with people with empathy and respect. That's something no degree can teach." Katreena was speechless. For a long moment, she stood frozen, staring at him. Then she finally whispered, "Why me?" Michal looked away, his jaw tightening. He couldn't tell her the truth, that he had tested her, disguised himself, and watched her kindness firsthand. So instead, he said simply, "Because I trust you." The next few weeks were nothing short of a challenge for Katreena. Walking into the towering glass building of Michal's company felt like stepping into another universe. Employees in crisp suits moved briskly through the halls, and the air buzzed with authority. At first, some of the staff doubted her. She wasn't from a prestigious background. She didn't carry herself like the others. But Katreena didn't let it shake her. She worked late hours, learned quickly, and treated everyone, whether janitor or executive, with the same respect. One afternoon, a heated argument broke out in the office lobby between two employees. People avoided getting involved, but Katreena stepped right in. With patience and calm words, she resolved the conflict, making both sides feel heard. By the end of the week, whispers began spreading. "She's different." Michal heard those whispers too. From his office window, he often found himself watching her. How she worked tirelessly, how she never lost her gentle smile, how she carried an honesty that commanded quiet respect. One evening, as everyone left, he found her still at her desk, finalizing reports. He walked over quietly. "You know you didn't have to stay this late," he said. Katreena looked up, smiling faintly. "If something is worth doing, it's worth doing right." For a moment, Michal just stood there, caught off guard. The words echoed in him, breaking through the emptiness he had carried for years. And in that silence, he realized she wasn't just changing his company. She was changing him. Weeks turned into months. What began as a chance meeting at the airport had now woven Katreena into every corner of Michal's life. His mother often smiled brighter whenever Katreena entered the room. Lily had grown so attached that she wouldn't sleep unless Katreena tucked her in with a bedtime story. And Michal himself, though he tried to hide it, found his guarded heart softening more and more each day. He admired her honesty in the office, her laughter with Lily, her gentle touch when caring for his mother. She wasn't dazzled by his wealth. She wasn't impressed by luxury cars, grand mansions, or the power his name carried. She only cared about people. One evening, after a long day, Katreena stayed behind at the mansion. Michal's mother had been unwell, and Katreena refused to leave her side. She wiped her forehead with a damp cloth, whispered words of comfort, and sang softly until the old woman drifted into peaceful sleep. From the doorway, Michal watched. His chest tightened, not with suspicion this time, but with gratitude and something deeper. Later that night, he asked Katreena to join him in the garden. The air was cool, and the stars shimmered above. "Katreena," Michal began, his voice lower than usual, "do you know why I gave you that job? Why I let you into my home?" She tilted her head, unsure. "Because you needed help?" He shook his head, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "No, because I needed you." Katreena froze, her eyes searching his. He took a deep breath, the weight of years of loneliness pressing against his chest. "For so long, I believed people only came near me for what I had, for my money, my power. I stopped trusting. I stopped believing in sincerity. And then you came. You helped my daughter when no one else would. You cared for my mother as if she were your own. You've shown me a kind of love I thought didn't exist anymore." Katreena's heart raced. "Michal!" He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "I tested you, Katreena. I disguised myself as an old man on the street. You helped me without hesitation. That's when I knew you were real. And I can't let you go." Her eyes widened in shock, then softened. "All this time, you were testing me?" "Yes," he admitted, guilt in his voice. "And you passed every test. Not because you tried, but because it's simply who you are." Silence fell, heavy with emotion. Lily's laughter drifted faintly from inside the house, and Michael's hand gently reached for hers. "I don't just want you in my company," he said firmly. "I want you in my life, as Lily's second mother, as my partner, as my wife." Katreena's eyes brimmed with tears. She had never imagined this path for her life, never thought a simple act of kindness could lead here. But as she looked into Michael's eyes, she saw sincerity, love, and a future she had never dared dream of. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with joy. "Yes, Michael, I'll marry you." At that moment, Michael pulled her into an embrace, the weight of his past loneliness melting away. From the balcony above, Lily clapped her hands, shouting, "Yay! Daddy and Katreena." And so, what began as a simple act of helping a lost little girl at the airport ended with a family finding its missing piece. Sparkle's ending note. Katreena proved that real wealth isn't in money, but in kindness. And Michael, the millionaire father, finally found the one treasure he had been missing all along: true love.